Hey guys, I'm Michael Ligertwood, and in this video we are going to be discussing the circle of fifths and everything that you need to know about it. So, first of all, let's get off our plates what is a fifth, and we also need to talk about fourths. It's very simple. You can think about them in two ways, either being the fourth or fifth note in a major or minor scale, or in a number of semitones. A fourth being 5 semitones and a fifth being 7 semitones. Okay, now if you add those two together, a fourth and a fifth, you get an octave. So, I've drawn this diagram of the circle of fifths. Now, you might also see it if you look it up online like this. All right. And that also has some key signatures on it. You'll see like what you would see on some sheet music. And we'll talk about that a bit later. So, if we go this way around the circle, clockwise, going up in pitch, we're going up by a fifth. And if we go counterclockwise up in pitch, we're going by fourths. And if you go down in pitch, it's the opposite. So from C down to G is a fourth, and from C down to F is a fifth. And you can do that from anywhere on the circle. So from E down to A is a fifth. From E up to A is a fourth. Now you'll also see on the inside of the circle, in small letters, the relative minor keys. You can either look at that, or the easy way to figure out what a relative minor is by just descending 3 semitones. So from C, you go down 3 semitones and you'll land at A. You go from E flat, down 3 semitones, you'll end at C. Pretty simple. So a relative minor key has the same notes, it's just played from a different starting point, basically. So the next thing, and I find this is actually the most useful thing about the circle of fifths, is it tells you how many sharps or flats are in a scale. If we start at C, the top position, that has 0 sharps or flats. It's natural, so we've got the symbol for natural here. So if we move clockwise around until we get to here, we're adding a sharp each time. So G major has 1 sharp, D major has 2 sharps. I'm going to do it like this because it's a little bit easier for me to see what I'm doing. G major 1 sharp, D major 2, A3, E4, etc. Now, the order of those sharps is like this. I'll put it up on the screen. And the order of the sharps is funky cows get down at every barn. If you remember that, you'll be sweet. So G major has 1 sharp, and that sharp is F. D has 2 sharps, so it has an F sharp and a C sharp. Now, if you start here and you go this way, you're adding a flat each time. So F has 1 flat, B flat has 2 flats, etc. And the order of the flats is the opposite to what the order of the sharps are. So you'll notice the order of the sharps starts at F and ends in B. And the order of the flats starts in B and ends in F. So these, I had to come up with my own mnemonic because the internet has some really random bad ones, I don't know. But barn exploded, so we got funky cows get down at every barn. And then in the order of the flats is barn exploded and did get cows frustrated. You know, because then they can't get down at those barns. So that's what that is. Now, I want to show you something on the keyboard that I haven't seen anyone else point out, that I kind of discovered myself. I'm sure there are people online that talk about it, but if you go through the order of, well, let's start with the order of the sharps. So remember, funky cows get down at every barn. Now, the first one is F. So now, if we keep adding them, the next one is C, the next one is G, the next one is D, the next one is B, the next one is E, the next one is B. So we're starting here, and then we go to the next one here. We move up, we move up, we move up, we move up, we move up. And the order of the flats is the opposite. So you start here at B flat for F major, and then you go to here, E flat, then A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, and F flat for 7. Knowing that kind of like really made it helpful for me anyway, to learn all the scales, all the major scales and minor scales. Now I want to point out something else. Okay, so that same relationship, you can also actually see that on this circle. So if we take the order of the sharps, what's the first one? F. We start at F. The second one is C. The third one is G. And we go around here till we get to B. The order of the flats. Okay, B. Well, here's B. We go around to F. It's the opposite. And you'll also see it kind of here, but except that they're flattened. So bead, G, C, and F. So here we say B because that's C flat. Sometimes it'll also be written as C flat major. And here E is an F flat, and you won't find F flat major. But you could, you just have to have a double flat in there. But isn't that interesting? Now, how can we practice and try and absorb this so that we remember it? We don't have to keep looking at it. Well, I'm still not perfect. I still need to practice, but there's 4 ways. So the first way is just to simply write it down. So here, this is the first few times that I wrote down the circle. Not very neat, doesn't have to be. It's just a matter of repetition, writing it out. Not only did I just do the circle, then you just write out it like in a line. That's the going in a sharp direction, that's going in a flat direction. So you can also play it on a keyboard in 1 octave. And another pattern kind of emerges because you're just moving. If you move up, we start at C, go up to G. And then if we go back down to the next one, D, we're basically just moving up the scale. That's one really easy way to play it in 1 octave. Now, you can also, I've begun to do this myself, still improving on it, but you can also use that as your progression to play your scales. when you sit down and you practice your scales, like start doing it with one hand, but as soon as you can do it with two hands, you should do it two-handed. And you go through the scale C up and down a few times, then go to G, then to D, then to A, then to E, etc. Go right around the circle, and then you can go around the other way. And then you become really familiar with how many sharps and flats are in each scale and how to play them very quickly that way. And the next way is a little hand trick, which you can do with another person as well, but if you're not very good about it, you can just basically think of a random number between 1 and 7, or 1 and 6. Like, you don't really need to know what the 7th one is because it's also the 5th of the other one. So like, say B, and like B has 5 sharps, but you can also have it as C flat, having 7 flats, and those are called enharmonic equivalents. But I find that once you get to the 6 o'clock position, if you just switch to the other one, then it makes it a little bit more simple. So you can do a hand trick going like, Rick Beato's got a story about this, and playing with an old guy, and that sometimes improvisers, when they're playing and they change scales, they'll like do a hand signal. So up is sharp, down is flat. The number of fingers is how many sharps or flats. So you might go up 3 sharps, you know that's A, or down 2, you know that's B flat, for example. But you can just ask yourself, like ask a random number, try and memorize them, and you can play it with somebody else, test them, do these hand signals and try and let them guess what it is. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and go and practice. I promise you it'll make you better. So thank you. I'm Michael Ligerwood. I'll see you next time.